I have the pleasure to invite on stage Bogdan Iordache. You met him this morning. He's our board manager and founder, who's going to moderate a discussion with Uldis Leiterts, the founder of Infogr.am, the most popular infographics creator in the world. Guys, the floor is yours, and I let you spring the conversation.
Thank you. Hey. So let's have a seat. Thanks for joining us. Will be entertaining.
How do you do, guys?
So I had the chance to meet this guy. Was it 4 years ago at Hack Forward, which was the first accelerator, the accelerator that you went from Hack Forward in Berlin, right?
Yeah, it was like 2012, I guess.
2012. Okay. So tell us more about what Infogr.am is.
Alright, Infogr.am is a browser-based constructor for making infographics in a very easy way. So you just go there and create infographics in like 2 minutes.
Infographics, like how customizable is that? Can you like set different type of graphics, you add your own text, captions, etc., etc. So you can do pretty much everything for infographics, right? Who uses that?
It's pretty customizable. It's used by online media and it streamlines data publishing. So customers are media publishers and different organizations who publish data online.
And at this point, what is like the current status of Infogr.am in terms of, I don't know, users, clients, views, etc.? How popular are you?
About 3 million users, and the infographics published in Infogr.am seen by about 35 million people every month.
Okay, so you're based in Latvia, right? I mean, the company is based in Latvia. Is it like this is the normal level of a startup from Latvia, or?
It's a good level for startup from Latvia, and so we're currently based in Latvia and San Francisco, and I think we might be one of the biggest Latvian internet websites so far.
Okay, so how's the scene over there? I mean, when you started the company, what options you had in, I don't know, raising money, doing development, etc., etc.?
Latvia is great for tech talent, not so great for design, but I think we got the best designer we may get. So it's very good for, I think, SaaS companies when you want to start scaling. Certain parts of the talent might be needed to be important from outside.
So just so you know, or probably that's something that you already know, the Baltics are pretty good at producing high quality startups, right? I've mentioned Skype, that's a good example, but also TransferWise is a good example, and Infogr.am definitely is a good example. Not yet to a billion valuation, but we're getting closer, I hope. And it's really interesting to see the way these guys have developed their business, given the constraints that they have, because they're so much similar to what's happening in Romania and in Bulgaria in terms of access to capital, access to people who have already had the experience of building a product, etc., etc. So we had yesterday a short conversation about Infogr.am and the way the company developed. And we kind of made a summary for each year, starting with 2011, right? So the company is now in its 5th year.
That's the 4th, I think.
Let's say the 5th.
Okay.
So how was the beginning for Infogr.am? How was 2011?
So we started with a simple problem. We got in the newsroom, and we started with the problem that journalists by the time didn't have any tools to publish data online in as an interactive way. And we found it actually pretty appealing to the large publishers. So it went, like, the start was pretty quick there. Regarding the funding you mentioned, so the local financing ecosystem was not really developed until 2012. It's much better now in the Baltics, but still I think that we're still catching up in terms of the local investors being competitive. At the same time, I think that more and more I see, not in the Baltics only, but also in many other parts of the world, the local investors start to understand that they compete with the, let's say, Romanian investors. They do not compete with Romanian banks, they compete with Romanian international airports, because going to London is like 1 or 2 hours away, and it might be easier to fly outside the home city to raise money. So I've seen the more and more increasing number of local investors realizing that becoming more competitive.
Right. So 2011, you started the company, you kind of looked for capital. There wasn't too much available, and you started applying to accelerators, right?
Right.
It was back in 2011 when accelerators started popping in Europe, and we had a new one every week, I guess. Hackford was one of the most exciting ones. Very different setup, really high quality people. How do you get to Hackford?
Infogr was an interesting accelerator. I think it's a concept accelerator because they only took something like 20 teams in their lifetime. It was one of the first accelerators I know that opened in Europe. It was the first to close as well. And their concept was that the acceleration program should be like sort of longer, so it was 1 year, and it came as investment. It sort of can last for 1 year for early stage.
What were the deal terms with Hackford, like standard deal terms?
So the standard deal terms was they took 27% and they joined the company in pre-early stage. So we can say that we raised money presenting two pictures of this is going to be a company, this is what the product going to look like, and this is going to be huge, and they trusted our vision. But from what I learned afterwards is that they probably rejected over 500 companies for every yes they said, so I think we were sort of the good side there. And then it was very much hands-on. I think that was also the reason why Infogr didn't really scale, was that it was designed to have all the team, which was fairly small, to be still pretty closely involved in the startup and advising and helping out. Which was great for those few startups who got in there, but it didn't really scale because the companies grew and their also needs grow exponentially.
Okay, so that was 2011, 2012. You kind of focused on the product, right? So I remember that when we met for the first time at Hackford, you had basically a mock-up of two graphics. That was it. I mean, there was absolutely no product. Lars kind of thought about what you're doing there. It's pretty interesting. And the first mentoring meeting was you and the CTO, I don't remember his name, sorry. Nice guy, but he was quiet. And you had like two mock-ups of two graphics and you're showing to everybody, and this is what you can do with our future tool. Right. So, what were the most important things that you learned while focusing on the product in the early days?
Right, it's like coming back to my co-founder Raimonds. So I remember that like accelerators and there's like mentoring sessions, and then there's drinking parties afterwards, and like everyone's chilling out and having fun, and Raimonds sitting in the corner with a laptop trying to do some coding there. There's still the picture on that somewhere on the internet, I guess. So, what was the question again?
What were the findings from the early days from working on
the early
product?
days findings. So so the first year we attracted about 150,000 users, and I think we lost every single one of them because we're trying to make something that looked very much like a product. But when you started to use it, it was highly unstable, and I think what we learned in the first year is that actually it's very easy for us to get customers, and it's very easy for us to lose customers, and then we started to talk to them, and it's like, hey, so you start to use the service and you left, like what happened, and it's like, okay, this doesn't do what we want. And I think that's still our greatest learning on this journey ever since has been that actually customers know what exactly your product should do for them. And it's quite a bit of time to learn that you actually have to listen to them.
How did you get to 10,000 clients in the first, users in the first year? I mean, did you spend money on marketing, or was it all viral, or just there was that much of a request in the market for such a product?
So the first year, I think ended with 300,000 users, and we never, I think even up till now, we haven't much ever spent anything in marketing. So every infographic published says native Infogram, over 2 million backlinks, the #1 search result for infographics in Google everywhere in the world. So SEO is a huge part of the scaling, and every user that uses Infograph for free is a referral for us.
Okay, so there's no free lunch actually. Right, so we started working on the product, and at some point things started to pick up. You had at some point an offer to get an early investment, right, in 2013, I guess.
Yeah, so we managed to be the first hack forward team to sort of got into having the seed round, and what we learned the hard way is that if you do a company and you talk to investors, you take everything for granted only when it's signed. So we signed a term sheet, and after due diligence, we realized that what we tried to do, we tried to raise seed round on A round terms, and we just realized from both sides it's not really quite a match between
What was
investors.
a seed round in round 8 terms?
So we tried to raise about 1.2 million euros, and just like 8 months old company, and the expectation from the potential investor was that, you know, you guys should sort of take what you got and you have to scale it up, and we were still looking for the market fit. And at the end of the diligence, we realized that we should go each in a different direction. But where we ended up, we had rejection from, or we were dropped out of the sort of seed financing round, just like 2 days before signing. And at the end, we had 20 days more left in the bank in terms of money. And the funny thing was that we realized that, okay, we still didn't have a lot of money, so we started to hire really expensive people. Finally, nobody left, and we renegotiated terms with Mars and Hack Forward, and we took a little bit of convertible note that moved us 6 months forward in the future, and then we closed the next round, and I think in those 6 months the growth of the company was really high. But I think we did sort of the right thing of not taking too early, like too serious, like sort of round.
Right. So you had an offer. Well, you had a proposal. They did the due diligence, and 2 days before signing, they like dropped out.
Yeah, well, it's like sort of a mutual agreement that it wasn't the right fit, and I still hold to that decision.
Do you still talk to those investors?
Yeah, I really like them, and they're really great.
Are they happy that they haven't invested? Do they think now it's a good decision?
That's a good question.
Okay, so because I guess they could have like changed the terms of the deal and that was it.
I mean, I think that we did the right thing at the right time at that moment, because every time it's about like a culture fit, and it's about the right direction to go. So that time I think we made the right decision, and now moving forward, like we raised money from other investors now, and I'm pretty happy about the synergies we got there.
Okay, so you had like no product, investment from Hack Forward, then product, then some growth, then failed round, then more growth with small salaries for the team, and then the next round from what investors?
So currently on board we have Point Capital and Connect Ventures and Hack Forward.
Point Capital from Berlin, Connect Ventures from London. How do you got in touch with those investors? I mean, you're in Latvia.
I mean, we are in, yeah, so I think every part of the world is great for building startups if you have an airport and internet connection. So Latvia has the fastest average internet in the world, something like second or third fastest in the world, and totally fastest in Europe. So in that sense, it's great. We have an amazing airport, and I think the Infogr.am being one of the most traveling startup companies as far as I've seen. So we've been on stage in something like 30, 40 startup competitions in finals, and something like 15 of them won something like 5 or 6. So I think we've been pretty visible there, and
so you just went to startup competitions across
we
Europe, hoping to.
We made arrangements of meetings with customers, with investors, everywhere, and like wherever it takes us to go. We built an ambassador network, so people like goodwill ambassadors telling about the brand. It's currently in over 100 countries around the world.
That was previously to the investment.
That started before we got seed investment. It's now for 2 years already, and we physically hold Infogr.am meetups in over 50 cities around the world, from Tokyo to San Francisco.
Okay, so you've been building this community, and because you were visible in the market, at some point investors, did they knock on your door, or it was the other way around?
I think we managed to be pretty known, and I think the communication with Planet Capital started after we won some sort of startup competition. I think it was the next web Amsterdam.
You don't remember them because there's a party after.
It was always like you don't know where exactly the first point of contact was, but definitely I think that the startup competitions was the key for us, and I think in this case it was the next web Amsterdam when I remember them, but I think we didn't meet before. But we tried to arrange some meetings with Slash and somewhere else. It's like we've been on the radar, I guess. So and now if you look for like future, I think that I think we just know the investors, they just know us, so we don't really need startup competitions for doing that.
Mm-hmm. So there's that famous saying that if you ask for money, you get advice, and if you ask for advice, you get money. Was it the same with you? Did you build a relation with the investors, or it was more quicker, guys were raising around, these are the terms, and get it on?
It was funny, so we were almost break even, so our burn rate was incredibly low. We burned about 10,000 euros a month for about 5 people team, and we just started to get money from customers. We had a couple of weeks of history, and basically our idea was that we could go to 2 ways. One is we can just start to, we go with slower growth, but we grow on ourselves, and our revenues from the customers, so that just works, and we break even in 4 months. Or we raise money and then we don't break even that close, but we just grow faster. So what we were looking for, and I think what was the match with Planet Capital, was that we trusted that we could grow faster if they help us out, which was the case as well. So I think that their contribution, which we valued at that time, was particularly Christoph Jan's knowledge in the SaaS metrics, and that was something that we still, I think, benefit from.
Okay, so after you got the investment, I guess there was a period of time when you started growing the team, right? Monetizing the product, etc. Because most of the time that's what happens after a seed round. How was the process of growing the team?
So we still hired people mostly in Riga, and what we realized is we need international people with international backgrounds. So some of the people we hired were actually, we imported them to Riga. We had people who moved to Riga from Australia and Brazil and London. So one of the sort of key takeaways is that if your city is capable of receiving foreign experts who can move there easily and start working, that's sort of an indication that the city can be a startup hub. And then after a little while, we realized that we need a permanent presence in the Bay Area, because most of our customers are from the US, and we looked at the Bay Area, we looked at New York, and we decided that we rather belong with technology companies, and we hired Mika, who's now CEO of the company. He's based in San Francisco.
Right, so yesterday you told me something which was really interesting. You told me that you want to work in a greater company that your country can give you. And that's the reason why people from Brazil or Australia, they come and join a startup in Latvia. Right? Because, honestly, as Bucharest, Latvia is not, or Riga is not the #1 destination for expats in the startup community, and it's really impressive that you managed to get those people.
So it depends on it. So if you say, let's say you want to work with Romanian people, and you look around and you can't find anyone with the skill set, there should be insanely talented Romanian people who don't live in Romania and they work at great companies, but if you can come with an offer and say that, hey, you can move back here and you can work for the greatest company here, that's the case where it's really appealing. So it was the same with Latvia. So we hired people who were Latvian expats living outside. But then after a while, we also realized that it's really, really possible for us to attract international talent. So that people from Australia and Brazil, there's an Australian guy and there's a Brazilian guy. They just moved to Riga because they wanted to experience working in a high-growth international startup. And currently, out of almost 40 people team, we have 14 different nationalities, and tech support speaks like 7 languages. So I think that's just, if you aim to build a global company, you should hire people with global backgrounds.
I have 2 more questions, but if you want to join me and ask questions, you can raise your hand. I guess somebody with a microphone can jump in. Okay, so my next question would be regarding monetization strategy. You started building the product and you managed to get growth at some point, which basically means that you have a lot of potential clients, just users at that point, who felt that your product is really useful, right? And then you started to monetize that. Was the monetization strategy like straightforward, or did it have any bumps down the road?
Well, first, I think that we screwed up in a way that we spent 2 years without actually launching a paid product. And when we did, we actually first started to learn what the customers are willing to pay for. Because if you ask, would you like to have this kind of product, they say yes. But if you say, would you like to pay for this kind of product, it's a very, very different mindset. And even if you charge a couple of euros a month for something, it's still you vote for this product with your credit card, and it's a completely different decision. So I think for us to grow up, it would be easier for us to grow up in the early days if we had a paid product right away. So I think that was the key probably thing for the monetization. So if we were able to learn from the customers, I think we'd probably be building a different product.
So you would recommend a freemium product or a product which has like trial period?
I think the premium, so we tried trial and we tried freemium. We still like the freemium more. It works better for us. I think it's not about the freemium product itself. It's about understanding what the customer is, like what are those people who are willing to pay for the product. So if you pay for a product, it means it gives you business value. And in the early days, we were sort of not yet deciding if we are B2B or B2C. Then we realized that we actually been used only by professionals. So then I guess we are a B2B company. So that means that the value proposition we do is it should be built for big companies.
Okay. My last question, if we have any other questions, now will time. If not, tell me more about why Riga. I know you're very bullish about like the small startup communities. Why do you love Riga more than San Francisco? Because at this point you're in the position of like moving to San Francisco along with the company, but you chose another small city somewhere on the globe to give it a try and see how the startup community goes there.
So I think it's always great to use the unfair advantage for you being in a home city. So Riga is great for tech talent. It is for you to build a global company. You don't really need like 20,000 people to work for you. You're fine with having 20 of them, and you can always find this core team in every more or less reasonable capital city in the world. So it is easier for the company to grow if you are like the biggest Latvian company. And we did quite a bit of PR locally to be well known And I know a lot of people in Latvia would like to work in Infogr.am. It's like, okay, it's a well-known company, they're doing great stuff, and they're globally recognized. If you go to a country where you are just like immigrant for like, you just arrived out of plane and go on the street and say, hey, who would like to work in the company? The trust issues and your company and your ideas is way less recognized. So the ability to attract top talent is much more challenging. It's not impossible, but it's much more challenging. So I think there's so much talent outside those few big centers of innovation that I think it's an unfair advantage, and especially if you live there, if you know the people around you, it's very easy to attract top talent. So I think this is what we're taking advantage of.
Okay. Cool. Thank you, and thanks for joining us today. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.